Welcome to the Family Brand Show. We're Chris and Melissa Smith of FamilyBrand.com, husband and wife, parents of 5, and we want to help you take back your family and to live life on your terms.
And we know being a family can feel really overwhelming. Parents tell us they feel like they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's so challenging to navigate the uncertainty and all the chaos that's happening in the world right now.
And that's why we want to bring you every single week actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better parent, to become a better spouse, and to build a stronger family. And look, there's never been a better time and a more important time than right now to take back your family. You can define what your family stands for, or the world is going to do it for you. And the world needs strong families now more than ever. And it starts right here with your family. Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Family Brand Podcast. This week, we're super stoked. We have some really special guests, Matthew and Shannon Missimer. Matthew and Shannon, welcome to the Family Brand Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
I think what you're going to share with us today is so profoundly important just to human beings, but especially I love the take that you guys have around as families. And so Matthew and I were connected through actually one of my clients through the Possibility Co. As most of you know, we specialize in work with financial advisors and wealth managers, wealth management firms. Matthew comes from that industry. I think still has some ties to that industry, but they have created, I would say, a company and a movement called the Motion of Gratitude. Yeah, I'd love to, and I don't know what questions Melissa has, but I'd love to hear more, just kind of the backstory of like, how did the Motion of Gratitude come to be?
Absolutely. Well, I have one comment to make about what you were saying about the couples, because it's kind of funny because whenever we do episodes together, they're the most listened to. Like, it's so funny, right? You bring on all these great guests, and then when Matt and I talk and like have real conversations, people are like, I want more of that.
That's awesome.
I feel like we are in this season of people wanting to actually hear the authentic, real life and be able to like get into the human connection of it all. So I thought that was funny you said that, because we kind of have felt the same way, where it's like, yes, it's fun to have guests and do the solos, but there's something about that connection point of a husband and a wife and a podcast that just adds a different dimension, almost like being a fly on a wall, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, yes. So I'll kind of kick us off here with the Motion of Gratitude. First, we were really excited to be here. It is really cool to connect with other people, but especially other couples who have just decided to take either their whole journey or part of their journey like together and go all in. And it's just really cool to see what you all are doing. The Motion of Gratitude started because of personal need 7 years ago. So at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. So we had 2 girls. This was before our little boy entered the picture. But I was home with the kids. Our oldest was about 2.5. Our youngest was about 8 months old. Prior to having kids, I was as type A as you could get, right? It was like, go, 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 external validation, let the world tell you who to be, and just like live that life. So motherhood took a moment for me. Our oldest, she allowed me to still say type A, right? Like, I had her on an app schedule. She was like, she did all the things of all the parenting books. I was like, this is easy. I so got this, like this parenting thing, check it off the list. Let's keep moving along. So she really allowed me to stay in that season of just staying in that rhythm of life. And our second child just had a different plan for us, right? Since the day that she got here, life was going to be different. And she has been such a gift to us. But she was just more sensitive to life, right? Like, no one could really comfort her besides mom. She would never take a bottle. She had colic. She was just up at all times. And I just had gotten to a season in my life where I was just giving everything that I had to her, just every bit of me, which I think so many moms can relate to in that season of just, you want so much to just be able to answer all the needs of this little human. And I got to a point where I just realized I was such a shell of the human that I was. Like, I was just numb. And, as somebody that could find the good in life before this season, this was the first season where I was like, I can't dig out, right? It's like, I couldn't, usually I would use exercise. I'd be like, okay, I'd go to the gym and I'd exercise, but it was a season where I couldn't reach for those external things in my life that were serving those needs for so long. And so one day Matt came home from work, being in the financial services industry at the time. And, as you know, it's an intense industry, right? You're dealing with stuff all day. Matt came home and I just started dumping on him a little bit, like all the things that went wrong, right? It's like, this is what happened. The naps didn't happen, all the negativity. And Matt just kind of looked at me, and you could tell he was trying to find his words, right? And he's like, I think you just need to learn to be more grateful. And I was like, that stings so bad. Like, how is that how you feel? Like, I'm showing up, I'm doing all the things, like, I'm giving everything I have to these babies. Like, how could you say that? Right. So, after working through the anger and frustration, the words kind of stuck a bit. And I was like, why am I still holding on to this? Like, what about what he said am I not able to let go of? And after a couple days of sitting in it, it's like, he's so right. Like, we wished and dreamed for the season, right? We have two beautiful babies. We have worked so hard to be in the house that we're in. Like, we were creating this life that is what we've always wanted. And I'm missing all of it because in this season, I'm so in the depths of all the pieces that feel hard and feel negative. And it wasn't that they weren't happening, but all these other things were still happening too. So it was like, okay, I have to make a choice of how I'm going to choose to show up because I know I want to stay home and I know I want to raise my kids. So I'm not going to change my environment. So what am I going to change in myself in order to really change how I'm showing up? And I got really intentional with my gratitude practices. I didn't have any before, didn't even realize it was something that I could do proactively. Got intentional with gratitude and learning to be present. And that was the shift of my life that allowed me to show up in my life as the mom, the wife, the human, the person, and really find the present moment again and the joy and the things that were there the whole time. I was just missing them because I was so caught up in the season of the intensity. And so that was the beginning of the motion of gratitude of where it stemmed from and where the experience really started. And then Matt has had his own experience with it, throughout his evolution as well.
That's awesome. Well, okay, I want to hear a bit of Matt's story, but then I also want to come back and like, okay, so how would you start this? Because if someone is in a regular gratitude practice, that's one thing. But I find most of the people I meet, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I should probably have a gratitude practice. I should probably be more focused on what I'm grateful for. So maybe we'll get to that. But Matt, yeah, what was you saw Shannon doing this, right? Probably saw maybe the impact it was having, and then what did you decide to do about it?
So like you, Chris, being in finance, and I was working for a big company at the time, so they were breathing into me endlessly. And I was always hiring coaches. I'm a type A human. We found each other on purpose, which is good. But at the time, I was working with a coach, and I was spending thousands of dollars a month on personal development. And Shannon was going through her own little experience for free in our master bedroom in the gaps of motherhood. And I was so impressed. So that was kind of the beginning of the awareness. But to be honest with you, I was so deep in my own journey of providing for my family financially. I was that guy who woke up every morning, got to the gym, worked out with my team, got to the office, and then came home at 5 o'clock. So I was out of the house 12 hours a day. The motion of gratitude didn't truly hit me until COVID happened. And this was the first time in my life where my sovereignty was taken away from me from a movement standpoint. Like, we were living in the Northeast. I was waking up. I was getting out of bed, getting on my Peloton, getting a shower, and then sitting at my desk, all within the confines of my master bedroom. And it was the first time in my life where I had to overhear what it was to be a mother. And it was really destabilizing for me because I would hear how the kids would treat Shannon and how hard it was. And I was upstairs, and that's what started to kind of rewrite the story for me. And then I had gone through something when I was 7 years old, and no one told me that when my oldest would turn 7, all that stuff would come back to the surface. And that was truly the beginning of my mental health journey, where then I circled back to really embrace the power of gratitude into my daily rhythm.
I'd love to hear, well, first of all, I keep thinking about this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes as it relates to family. And it says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And I love it so much because it's like, oh yeah, you think you're like having it all together, you're like so enlightened, and then it's like nothing like family, I believe, can make you realize like, oh wow, these are some things that I can work on.
A couple things there.
Yes. And I think that it's really cool how you, Shannon, tell the story about how motherhood has shaped you. I think, and that without like really a catalyst for this gratitude practice, I would love to know like what a few things, like how it came to be that you came to work together. I think that's part of the story still left untold, but also like what did it look like for you at first, Shannon? Help us. I feel like you could help us or our listeners, anyone listening, make it faster, like that we can get to a place without the trial and error as much and know like, okay, how can we have a really impactful and strong gratitude, practice of gratitude.
Yes, 'cause I think that's how it was for me too. It was like people are talking about this, but it's kind of like the one-off thing. It's like you should do this, and then everybody checks over it, right? And now it's like an addition on your like calendar and things to do. It's like put gratitude in there too, right? It's like
Yeah.
just add it on, or you do like these gratitude challenges. Be like, do this one day, this another day, this another day, and it's like, how do you even know what's helping you in those moments? Because you're just moving from thing to thing. And if like going back to that time 7 years ago, it was this mindset of like, okay, what's something that I can reach for every single day in the season of motherhood where I don't control my schedule. I don't really have like a set way of doing things. Like it was literally like, okay, if I don't leave the house, if I don't, connect in with other spaces, what can I do every single day that I know that I'm capable of doing? And for me, gratitude journaling and actually writing things down was the foundation that I started with, because there's so much science that has been done around one, writing, right? It's like when you take something in your mind and you actually make it real, there's a process that happens that actually shifts the makeup of the body, right? So in that process of actually sitting in the feeling of gratitude enough to write it down, you're starting to shift from that fight or flight. So are you guys cool if I go into science a little bit?
Mhm.
Okay, because I've been like deep in nervous system and just like understanding it, because I think it's really helpful. So looking back now, I can see that I was stuck so deeply in my sympathetic nervous system, right? So like the fight or flight, the like everything is something that I have to be fearful of, right? So that's the part of our body that's meant to keep us safe. And when our nervous system is stuck there, we're actually operating from a different part of our brain. So we're operating from our amygdala, which is like the reptilian part of our brain. It's like, I'm here to keep you alive and that's it. So if I see a threat, like I'm just going to keep you in this place of being alive. And in thinking about that, when we stay there, we get stuck in this cycle, and our mind doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. So my body, every time it heard my 8-month-old scream, was like, you're in threat mode, like you're about to be attacked by a bear, right? So the cortisol starts, the body starts like getting stuck in this fight or flight. And then when that happens, you can never really allow yourself to get out of that if you don't create ways in which to allow your nervous system to calm. So the beautiful thing about what writing in a gratitude journal does, or a gratitude practice, is you're taking yourself out of that fight or flight. You're actually dropping yourself into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is saying like, okay, if I was in threat, I wouldn't be able to sit here and write this, right? So just the act of sitting down, slowing down, you're starting to shift your nervous system. And when you shift your nervous system from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, you're also shifting your body from that amygdala to your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brain that's focused on empathy, connection. Like when you are like in the flow of your life, you're operating from that part of your brain. So there's been so much beautiful science that's been done to talk about how gratitude practices actually shift us into that state and into that prefrontal cortex. So I didn't know I was doing any of this. Like when I was gratitude journaling, I was like, I just need space for me. Like I just need space for mom. That's it. And it felt like something that I could reach for. The act of making that time for myself every single day. So at the time, our youngest was waking up at like 5:30. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 extra minutes. If that's the earliest she's getting up, I'm going to get up 10 minutes earlier, and I'm just going to write in my gratitude journal. So I start the day on my terms, not hers, right? And it was like, that was enough of a shift to start to dig out of everything that felt like it was burying me at the time mentally, and then when you start to make that shift, you're then telling the filter in your brain to look for more things to be grateful for. So it starts to snowball in this beautiful direction. And the reason why so many of us don't get the experience of it is because we do it once and then we stop. Or like we do it for like a day or two and then we stop. And it's like any other habit. It is through the process of consistently doing it over and over and over again that you start to create the shifts and the change in the body and the mind to actually shift the wiring of how you're showing up in your day. Like it's so cool once you get into the science of it. Obviously, I've like geeked out over it after that because I was like, what is happening?
That's amazing. And is that have something to do with why you call it the motion of gratitude?
Yeah. So it was one of those things really. I love that you talk about like family brand, because the motion of gratitude took on a life of its own from like the branding perspective. But yes, to me, gratitude created a motion in my life that allowed me to, it created emotion in lots of different ways. Like it was the catalyst to kind of move in a direction of positivity. But then at the same time, it's also the act of gratitude or the feeling of gratitude, right? So I think we spend a lot of time talking about the difference because a lot of people say like, oh, you should be grateful. Well, we believe you should feel gratitude and then you will show gratitude, right? We believe it's a feeling first before it's something that you do. So for me, the act of practicing it created the movement to actually go out into the world and spread it and share it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never heard it shared that way, that you want to feel gratitude, not just this idea of you should be more grateful. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, we've
And
created
like
so much shame around it.
right. And the branding for us, like, things fell into place so beautifully. Like our tagline is feel the impact, right? Like rewind 7 years ago and imagine the chances that that wasn't already trademarked. Like, how is that possible? And then for us, like back when the company started, everyone was talking about being in ketosis. So literally, I'm in the shower one morning and it just hits me. Gratosis, the process, state, or condition of gratitude. I got out of the shower. I'm like, Shannon, Google this word. And it didn't exist. So we trademarked it. And our dream from a branding standpoint is, what if gratosis is your next diagnosis? And for the first time in the Western world, we start chasing a positive outcome versus contrast that to so many things that are happening in our culture now. We're all going through the motions, which is the opposite of the motion of gratitude, in my opinion. And then we wake up one day and we're diagnosed with a disease. And now we're in crisis management mode to solve this problem, which is inside of us, which I believe most disease is caused by imbalance. And now we have to engage in all these new tools in order to bring ourselves back.
It's amazing.
I want to hear how it ended up, Matthew, that, correct me if I'm wrong, what I've read on your website is that you have kind of stepped away from your prior financial services industry identity and are now doing this motion of gratitude. How did that come to be? That sounds like that would be a very story.
Yeah, that was
It's a fun one.
yeah, that was an extreme shift. Once we started this work, and really once we moved on to the RV and travel all over the country during COVID, like you guys, the more you expand, the more awareness you have, and the more you question. So I was going through this questioning process and I couldn't find my footing, to be honest. I had gotten to the point where I was like, what is the point? And that's ultimately what led me to go on a spiritual quest, go to Costa Rica, explore all these alternate healing modalities. And in that process, I learned that one of the core issues for my mental stability was managing money. And because I'm such an empath, and when it comes to people, I didn't realize how much intensity I was carrying by managing money for people. And I couldn't separate any longer someone who lost 10% in their portfolio and the impact that had on them psychologically. And I just couldn't dedicate my life to that anymore. But what I love doing now, and I'm still connected in finance, is I help the humans that help the other humans with their money. And I'm so passionate because I believe that financial advisors are caregivers. They hold space for a lot of humans, and a lot of financial advisors battle mental health issues. And it's not talked about because a lot of those advisors, they make a lot of money. So everyone thinks that they're okay. And
very high performing.
And high performing. So even my book, so I wrote a book, it's called The Paradox of Having Your Shit Together. And the reason I named it that was, from the outside looking in, when I was wearing nice suits and driving nice cars and living in the big house, everyone thought I was okay. But the internal Matthew was not. So that's what caused me to make the shift and dedicate my life to bringing awareness to having a conversation around vulnerability, which I think is a superpower.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's okay. So, and we might have to do a part 2 and have you guys on to do a longer. We didn't schedule enough time, I don't think, today. Because there's so many questions I want to ask, and so much more, so much deeper I want to go. And so today, if a family was like, "Hey, I want to I want to feel gratitude. I want to like utilize the full power of gratitude to rewire my brain and rewire the nervous system. You guys offer currently courses,
Yes.
retreats. Like how does someone, I mean, obviously you can go to the motionofgratitude.com, which we'll link in the show notes. So how would someone work with you? And then also if you would, what would someone do today if you had one piece of advice of like, here's how to start feeling gratitude, not just you should
Yep.
be more grateful.
As I was going through this whole experience for myself 7 years ago, I realized that the starting point to everything that you said, the starting point didn't really exist, right? And it felt like it was too overcomplicated. So as I started to really look back and look at exactly what I was doing during that time, we created what we called the experience. And it's a 28-day gratitude initiative for anybody who is really ready to set that foundation, because we do feel like it's been too overcomplicated, and we wanted to create something in a way that can meet people where they are, right? Retreats are amazing. And in the season that I was in, and a season that a lot of the people are in that are looking for tools like this, getting up and leaving for a week isn't an option, right? We all know that we can breathe into ourselves in like these motivational ways or in retreats, and they're so wonderful. But it's like, how can we meet people where they are, exactly where I was, or the season, in that caregiving season? So the 28-day experience is meant to be a combined. So we have a physical product, which is like a journal and bracelets and things to really make it a full experience. And then everything, all of the content is housed on a digital platform. So that way it's meant to be for, more of the DIYer, the person who's like, all right, I'm going to go all in and I just want a little bit of a guide. So we're really excited about that. That is really, I would call our flagship experience that we have. And then what's been really cool this year is we've created workbooks for students. So much of the feedback that we received from the parents was, I want to do this with my kids. Can they use the app? And it's like, yes and no, right? It's like, that is so for adults, and get them off of technology. So we created workbooks that completely mirror the experience that the adults go through. The kids can go through at the same time. So it's meant to be this beautiful connection point for families. We're doing it in schools right now and different like kids organizations, it's been really fun to start to get feedback in that space. So we have our gratitude guidebooks, which are also available, and they're the workbooks for the kids. To answer your question about the one thing that I would suggest for people to do, I think what I realized so deeply through the practice is what gratitude taught me to do is it actually taught me how to be present in my life. And so if you are somebody who is like in the season where it's like, I am either so stuck in the past or so stuck in the future of like what has to change for my life to be perfect, if you can find the present moment in your life, that is where gratitude exists. It feels so simple, right? But so much of it for me comes back to start connecting back to your breath, like connect back to the exact moment that you were in, and actually create awareness around intentionally breathing and being present. So to give a real thought here, right? So if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't have time for this, right? Breathe in for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 6, start to calm your body. And then in that moment, give yourself space to think, okay, what is still going right in my life? And let that be the anchor point in which you keep coming back to. Even if you do that, just that simple act a couple times a day, you're starting to rewrite that connection to the nervous system. You're starting to rewrite that connection to the body and the connection to the present moment. And that's what's going to start to build the momentum in the other direction. So that's
amazing.
That's my thought.
Breathe in for 4, out for 6.
Out for 6.
And then focus on what is still going right in my life.
Yeah. So in this moment, what is still going right in my life?
And
Yeah,
Chris,
it's
that's
amazing.
why like the bracelets are so important for me, because we need to create an anchor point that is visual. Our brains like that stuff. So for me, the bracelet's critical. And the power of that pause is what has taught me to, like, my second mountain was fatherhood. My first mountain was making money. No matter how much money you make, you can be a better father because you provide better, but you're not going to be a present father. So for me, the power of the pause is, like, my 5-year-old is a good example right now, having the boy last, right? But Grayson, he's really good at triggering me. That's why he's here, to teach me all of my lessons. If before I did this, when he was triggering me, I would react. Now I breathe. And that pause is what allows me to make the next best decision to be a good dad.
Yeah, I love that. I know I've seen things before where it talks about vibration and how to like raise your vibration, and how gratitude is like one of those higher vibration frequencies. It's been a while since I looked at this, but it was like one of the highest that you
Yes.
can feel.
Mhm. It's right above love.
Which is so beautiful and amazing. Like, what family doesn't want more of that? No matter where you're at right now listening, like, who doesn't want more of that in their life and in their family? This has been such a great conversation. It reminds me too, our son, our oldest son, his word of the year is grateful. And I'm like, wow, what a really cool way for us all to maybe participate in his word this year with some of these.
Yeah, I'm like, the Smith family is going to go through the experience, the 28 days, and get the workbooks for our kids. Yeah, I guess the last thing I would say in closing here is that the biggest epiphany I've ever had in my life, and it sounds so simple, and people think, I think people think at first that I'm messing with them when I say this, but it's like, if we just focused more on what is working, what we do want, what we do have, and what we do like about our lives, instead of focusing on what we don't want, what we don't like, what isn't working, what we don't have in our lives, it is remarkable how much better your life could become just in the shift of, and you reminded me when you said, breathe in for 4, out for 6, and just have the focus on what is still working in my life right now. Because no matter how bad your life gets, there's something that is working.
Yes.
No matter how overwhelmed you are, there is something you want. I've never really linked, though, gratitude to that. And it is, because in essence, when you are thinking about what you do like, what you do have, what you do want, and what is working, that's feeling gratitude towards that, But I feel like, to me, gratitude's always been taught as like a thing you have to do, and gratitude challenges. And so, well, thank you for the work. Obviously, we'll link to themotionofgratitude.com. I encourage you to go visit themotionofgratitude.com. I'm super excited about the 28-day experience, super excited about the workbook. Melissa's actually a really amazing journaler, like really faithful, like journals like really often.
Yes, when you're describing the history or the science behind it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I know it feels good. I know it's like so grounding for me, but I'm like, oh, I don't know that.
The science just makes it so cool. You're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Even though there's so much cool research there. It's such a gift.
Last thing, is that also, if someone wants to follow you on Instagram, they find you at the Motion of Gratitude?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. But yeah, Melissa and I are super grateful that you came and joined us, and like, what a cool, I feel like, we're grateful. We're grateful to have you, feeling gratitude to have Matthew and Shannon. So
thank you. This has been,
thanks for having us.
So enjoy the conversation, getting to be a part of it. So thank you.
yeah, you guys are awesome.
See you as well.
Thanks for hanging out with us today on the Family Brand Podcast. But wait, before you go, I want to give you something. It's something I stole out of our Family Brand Academy because I thought it would make a big difference for you, and I want you to have it for free, no strings attached. It's how we run our family meetings, and not just our family meetings that we have every week, but also our family check-ins, which is the system we've developed for how to connect with our kids and each other, Chris and I, every single week. And we've had some great outcomes with this. Not only have we, but a lot of families that have implemented this have as well. Actually, life-changing outcomes, if I'm being honest. You'll definitely want to get this. Go get your copy at familybrand.com/meeting, and we will catch you next time.